Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we are back for the 60th interview in the Real 50 Over 50. And I am so excited to bring you the guest that we have today because not only is she amazing and fabulous and wonderful, but she's also one of my chosen sisters. And I think she is incredible and love having her in my life for many, many years and many, many years to come. And her name is Teri Goetz. She's a artist, a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, an herbalist and modern medicine woman. She's a doula and a life coach, as well as a lover of gardening, cooking, and traveling. She is my very own Renaissance woman. Um, and after 20 years in the healing professions, Teri began reconsidering what she wants the next phase of her life to be. And her story is both empowering and inspirational, and we're going to dig into it today. So, welcome, Teri. So happy to have you here.
Oh, I am so thrilled to be here with you, my sister. I really am happy to be here. Thank you. That was a
Thank
nice
you for
introduction.
Thank you for coming and sharing your story. So let's just start with, how did life change for you when you turned 50 or 60, or like what was that point where you had your network moment of I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore?
Which time?
I don't know, whichever one or whatever you want to share.
I think for me, it was, I had several awakenings. The first one was I was a wounded healer, which is a common phrase you hear among healers and medical professionals, where I loved what I did as a doctor of Chinese medicine, and but it was exhausting. And it wasn't until it was exhausting because I was healing myself at the same time and didn't realize it. Like I would be very focused when I was with my patients, and I enjoyed my patients so much. And in fact, I really miss them now that I've retired from that. And I miss the medicine, but I don't miss the weight of caring for people because I do it with such an enormous amount of passion that it was kind of exhausting. And but I didn't realize it until a couple of years ago how much of an impact it had on me when my husband, as you know, went into the hospital with he was septic and had two valves that were infected, and the hospital nearly killed him. The surgeon was brilliant, but it was, he was in the hospital for over 4 months and then came home and recuperated for another half a year. And I had to stop everything, because it was in New York City. I live in the Hudson Valley, and I was with him every day being his advocate, which was hard and scary. And he coded, and there were days where I thought he's not coming back. And then thank God he did. We got him out of the hospital to take care of him. And then my brother died of pancreatic cancer, and I had to, my husband was well enough at that point to come with me. He lived 3.5 hours away, my brother, and so we went every week for 3 to 5 days, months, yeah. And it was very emotional, but it was also very healing. It was like sort of another way to midwife someone over to the other side is quite an honor, and it was hard but beautiful at the same time. And then sadly, his son, my nephew, in December, committed suicide. And that was a result of going off of Xanax, cold turkey. No one had taught him how to do it. So not to get too heavy, but there was a lot of intense stuff that happened. And it kind of broke me in a way. It kind of made me realize that I can't keep giving. I can't keep caregiving like this. And my lease was up for renewal. So I decided not to renew my lease. And I had been during COVID, when my practice was open and closed and open and closed, I started taking botanical art classes online. And I took oil classes when I was 10 for a couple of years. And, I'm quite a bit older than 10 right now. But it scratched an itch I didn't know I had. And I came alive again in a way that it was just so meditative and soothing. And I'm a very kind of fast-paced gal. And it shocks me to this day that I can sit here and do the minutia of botanical art and find it calming instead of, aggravating. So anyway, I think what happened as the big transition was I decided to live my truth, my real truth. Like I really should have been an artist. I should have gone to art school. I don't like to should myself, but
Mhm.
um, I enjoyed, like I said, I enjoyed my years of healing, but the artwork fed me. And so now my goal, I'm lucky in that my husband can support us and I can take this transition time to move from my medicine practice to my art, which I just completed my certificate at the New York Botanical Garden, and my final project
Congratulations.
was, thank you. And so I graduate in June, and then I start my art business. So it feels really good to reinvent myself again. I guess that's my
Mhm.
60 year. I'm 62. It's probably my 60th year reinvention. I feel like I've reinvented myself quite a few times, but
Yeah, you have.
I kind of have
But
a
that's
string
not
of
a bad
these.
thing. That's not a
No,
bad that's
no,
not a
and it all
bad
comes together, right?
yeah.
You and I were
Well,
talking about that before.
I think it's more than a reinvention, it's more of a refinement and remembering,
Mm,
like, refining the things and really becoming clear about, what is really true for you, and the things that
right.
we've done along the way that we just did because somebody told us to, or we thought it was the right thing, or it was the next logical step. But while we were doing that, we're also giving away chunks of ourselves as we're
Yeah,
parenting and, caring for others and, doing the laundry before painting,
yeah,
and like decades and decades and decades of that really add up.
they
And
do.
I like what I've recognized from now having 60 conversations,
Yeah,
um, is that when we have the space, when we draw that line in the sand and give ourselves the room to really think about what we want, we start to remember those parts and pull them back to us.
yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to bring all those parts together into something. That's kind of where I feel like I am now, is that I'm bringing the medicine, the caring, the gardening
Yeah.
that feeds my soul. I don't know. There have been a bunch of studies actually recently that show being in the garden keeps you younger, and it's working in the soil, and I find that very rewarding.
Mhm.
Um, and so now I'm trying to bring it all together uh, and do a lot. Like my final project for the botanical garden was it was called Big Medicine, and it was big images of surprising medicinals in the Western garden. So magnolia, honeysuckle, things that you wouldn't expect are medicinals are, and yet they're so beautiful. Even
Mhm.
invasives, like invasive weeds, that little honeysuckle actually is an invasive weed, but there's a use for everything.
Mhm.
And if you can find a use for your plants and express, I feel like there's healing in art, not just in doing it, but in viewing it. Um, and so I feel like it's just the next phase of healing, but this time I get to feed me at the same time in a
Mhm.
bigger
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. It's not the other thing that I've noticed in these conversations too, and I've definitely noticed it in you, is like there's a calmness with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
The hustle kind of
Oh yeah.
is muted, and there's just like a calm foundation of, okay, so this is what I'm going to do, and we'll figure out how to do it, and you're still having plans and making schedules and doing the things that you need to do, but that hustle that we did 10 years ago is
Yeah.
just, it's not here.
No, it's not here and I don't want it anymore.
No,
I
no.
really don't. I just think I spent a lot of years, paid a lot of guru coaches, a lot of money, uh,
Mhm,
to be in that race that it wasn't natural to me. I could not, like doing sales calls or something like
mhm,
that for my coaching program or whatever was just so antithetical to who I was as a human being.
yeah,
But I kept trying to put my square peg into a round hole. And that's what we do as women a lot.
yeah.
Um, and I think even culturally, we're just very driven in America, in the Western world, to perform.
Mhm,
And, success equals money. Success equals being on a big stage, which is what I thought I needed to do for a while. Like I need to be a speaker. I hate public speaking. Like I hate it. My mouth goes dry. The one time, my favorite story is I was giving a talk on I think it was herbs for menopause or something. And I got up in front of a very large group of women. I think it was like 500 women. For me, that was a lot of people. And I got up to the podium and my mouth went completely dry. Like I couldn't, words would not come out. So I had to drink the previous speaker's water in order to get words out. So I was like, yeah, this might not be for me, but I thought I had to keep doing it. And then when I let go of that, I cannot tell you the relief, the calm, and the sense of like, there's joy in just being the person you're here to be.
Yeah.
And I don't need to prove anything.
No.
I don't.
No, and what will happen next, what I anticipate, because we know each other really well, and we've gone through that whole hustle phase together.
Yeah.
I think the parts will just come.
Yeah.
You'll just show up and everything will happen.
Yeah, that's what I believe. And now I'm about to start moving into that phase of business building as opposed to just getting the certificate and learning and all of that. So but it's different because I don't have the pressure of performance anymore.
Yeah.
And I find that people are coming to me and asking for commissions or to paint their dog or cat or something, which I happen to love, weirdly. But that is a telltale sign that I'm moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've always been a big believer of you need to pull all of your parts together. When you leave something out, there's a gap. There's a gap in your own
Yeah.
story. And
Yeah.
people believe you. They don't trust you because you're not telling them everything.
And people can feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. They can really feel that there's something missing or there's an insecure part or, it does people
you feel it too. You feel it too.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying doesn't feel right coming out of your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I've noticed, here's one of the biggest changes I've noticed is that I'm sleeping. Menopause gave me sleepless nights like nobody's business. I still have my occasional one, but I have figured it out. But the thing that I feel so blessed and so lucky about is that I get to listen to my body clock. I get to wake up when my body says it's time to wake up. I don't wake up to an alarm anymore. I take care of myself more. I exercise more. And those pieces bring me great peace. And I feel so much better. And I'm much more able to be creative and focus than when, you're burning the candle at both ends, which is what I did most of my adult life, most of my life.
Well, you also really weren't feeding your creative side at all. There was no space for it.
No, but I did get a little, like when I studied the shamanism and I integrated the shamanism bit into my acupuncture practice. I didn't do a lot of it, but that was very creative because it was very real and interactive with the patient. And the patient was more proactive as opposed to passive. When you put needles in someone, they're kind of passive. It works and it's quite an amazing medicine. And I'm thrilled that I had the opportunity to do it, but it wasn't quite as creative as integrating other pieces of it. So, yeah.
Well, look who we have with us today.
Andrea. Hi. So good to see you.
Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. So let's talk about healing through art. Like, how has art, and not just the art, but let's talk about all your parts, really, like the garden and the art and the being a doctor of Chinese medicine and a doctor of acupuncture and a doula and a parent and a wife and like all of these things, a daughter, a sister. How are you pulling this all together?
Well, I think it's like I said, I feel like how amazing is it that I can grow a plant myself, draw it, paint it, whatever, and then eat it 90% of the time. Like, to me, that is just such an incredible creative process of using things and teaching people how to use things that are in their garden and in their peripheral world, or even in the supermarket, how to use that. And there's like this meditation that happens when I do mostly colored pencil right now. And I find because it's very, very time consuming, like, a drawing can
So detailed.
What's that?
It's so detailed.
It's very detailed and it's very slow. It's not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
paint. You know, it's many, many, many layers, and a drawing can take 90 hours literally.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure how I'm going to make money on that time wise, but
We'll
that's okay.
figure it out.
We'll
Don't
figure it
don't
out.
worry about the how. Just worry about I
Well,
think the thing is just pulling these parts together is
yeah,
the most important thing to do. The rest is all just gonna happen.
right. Yes, exactly. I'm not really worried about that at all. But when I sit down with a plant and I start to draw, I just have this like weird connection that happens between the plant and I that feels sort of like I've gone to another plane. I don't know how to
Mhm,
describe it, but I'm with something that's alive, you
mhm,
know, and I'm making it three-dimensional on a two-dimensional piece of paper
mhm.
and making it come alive and stay alive for a longer period of time. So there's this weird commune that happens, I think. And I listen to beautiful music. I'm looking out my gorgeous window at the countryside, and it's just like I feel like in this. My favorite quote of all time is Gandhi's, "In a small way, you can shake the world." And I just feel like this can have small impacts that ripple out, like a lot of things. Like when you give a talk, right? Or you have like I would do group coaching, and say 5 people show up at the call that you're giving. All you want to do is touch one person,
Yeah,
you know? And it's the same way with the art. You touch one person and the ripple effect and the calming effect. You just want to make the world more beautiful, more calm. I do rather, healthier, teach people about the medicinal values of plants through art. I mean, like to me, that's bringing all the parts together and really, really rewarding.
yeah. And, I'm sure because of your background, when you have this commune with a plant, it's not just about putting it on the paper because you're also bringing in how you heal with plants.
Oh yeah.
Through your experience as a Chinese medicine doctor and an acupuncturist, and, like, how it can be food through cooking and how you see different plants when you travel and how you
Mhm.
grow them in your garden and, like, which plants like, when you're deciding, like, if you're going to be putting 2 or 3 plants on one piece of paper, like, how would they be in the garden? Like, so I'm
Mhm.
sure you're factoring all of that in when you're creating art.
I am absolutely. And sometimes what's interesting is it's a process. When you first start, I do have a little performance anxiety, like I did with, I'd get on a coaching call with someone, I'd have a little moment of like, um, but I guess once I start moving with it, it just feels different and it starts to come to life in this really way. And then there's always this ugly stage where you're like, oh, this is horrible. It's not going to come together. And then all of a sudden there's a magic moment where you see it. You see the three-dimensionality and again, it comes alive. And it's just the process. It's kind of like life where you just are, you coast for some parts of life. It's stressful for some parts of life. It's relaxing, and then it's beautiful and it's joy. And we all want joy all the time, but we
Mhm.
can't have that because that's not the way life is. And I think it makes you appreciate stuff differently.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, kinda like taking a walk rather than passing it in a car, right?
yeah, yeah.
Taking it a little slower. And, so now what about, um, like, let's go back to the caregiving for a minute.
Hmm.
I think that there's a little bit more we could talk about there.
Okay.
As a healer, how challenging was it to be the caregiver? Because, I mean, you did, like it was, like, 2 years between
Take care
Jerry
of
and
my
your
husband. You
brother.
mean? Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and that was extreme. That was not like, friendly
Yes.
caregiving. That was full on.
That was full on nonstop, 24/7.
Yeah.
It's like with Alzheimer's, they call it the 36-hour day when you're
Mhm.
caretaking for someone with Alzheimer's. Was kind of similar. My
Yeah,
husband's a very big guy,
yes.
and having him incapacitated was both terrifying and scary. Well, it's just scary, and I worried a lot about him. And then to be a healer and to know what he should be doing, and sometimes he did it, sometimes he didn't, and sometimes I was very frustrated with the hospital system, and that's why that advocacy. I mean, I was like a fierce mama bear, you know, and I had to be because they would forget things and screw things up and give him the wrong medication. 3 times that happened. They gave him the wrong medication.
Yeah.
And we caught it, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But caring for someone you love like that is very different than, I mean, I loved my patients on a certain level, but it's not like your husband or your kid or something. It's just, it's very, there's a reason why they say doctors shouldn't take care of their family, because you do get very emotionally involved. But on the other hand, if I hadn't, I don't know that he would be here right now, quite frankly. And that was the ultimate where I just felt, you know, what's interesting is this is the part that I'm not sure how to explain or where to even put it in my own psyche, but it took a long time for me to feel entitled to retire. And it was like, oh, I've saved his life a few times now. I guess I am entitled to retire, which is ridiculous on so many levels. But for me, I mean, I always felt like I had to prove myself. That was my biggest wound, I think, was proving myself to other people. And it was hard for me to not make as much money as he did. And then to give up all income for a period of time. It was really, as you know, it was really, really hard for me to do. And now I have zero guilt about it, because I know in my heart that doing what you were put here to do in this phase, like I think we, you know, we're different people in different periods of our life. It's just what I should be doing. And I don't feel like, women feel like, I think often they need to earn things instead of just feeling like it's part of their legacy. I mean, their right to exist, period. Their I don't know, we just do so much, you know, we caregive, we work, we parent, we have friends, we have to carry all these roles. And then on top of it, you're supposed to also be the best at everything. And often I felt like I was not being really good at anything. I was sort of half-assing a lot of stuff because I was spread too thin.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't feel very good.
And honestly, doing too many things that were just so out of your character.
Yeah. I mean, I get bored easily, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Like I need to do different
But
things.
you know, you would beat yourself up about that too.
Yes, because I
And
felt like
and
there was something wrong with me.
no, and there wasn't. You just have lots of interests.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
it
good
wasn't
thing.
until I did human design. What?
And that's a good thing.
Well, now I think it is, but at the time it was torturous. You know,
Yeah.
I just kept thinking, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why can't I settle? But then I had a human design reading, well, a
Mhm.
bunch of them actually. And it was the first time in my life she read my chart and said, "Oh, you like to change careers periodically. You have many interests." And you know, she basically defined me, and it kind of gave me permission to be my
You.
own self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
and
should have known better, but what can I tell you?
we weren't raised like that.
No.
We weren't raised like that. We were raised to take care of others.
Yeah. You know that more than anybody, right?
Yeah, and, you know, you just reach a point where, you know, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
And, you know, the best that we could do is teach our children better.
Yeah. And teach them boundaries and when to say no. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of my daughters, my adult daughters,
Yeah.
and they have learned that lesson, both
Yeah.
by watching me and both by having the conversations and by being very real with them.
Yeah.
But I can say no now.
Mhm.
I can say no now, which is something I really had a hard time with because I was a people pleaser.
And say no without attachment to it.
Oh, yeah. And no guilt.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. That's what we're supposed to, you know,
That's what we're supposed to do, clear the
yeah,
decks.
why do we have to make it so difficult on ourselves?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I just know I really am enjoying stopping that.
Yeah. That's one of the privileges of, you know, of becoming older. I remember someone once telling me that getting older is a relief because when you walk down the street, you're invisible, which
Mhm.
to me was a very sad thing to hear on one level. But on the other hand, there's this inward, You go inward instead of outward. When we're younger, especially as women, obviously, we're taught it's all about the way we look. And at this stage, it's just a beautiful thing to be able to go inside. And that's the more important part, the inner world. And that's I think what she was trying to say. I don't
Mhm,
feel invisible at all, but I do feel like the pressure is off. And
mhm.
that's the beauty of getting older.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I, I it's funny. Um, you and another friend took me to lunch on my birthday a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
and after I got home, I ran out to the supermarket to pick up a few things, and I fell in the parking lot because there was, like, a crater in the parking
Oh,
lot,
geez.
and my foot just went out, and I went down. The shopping cart was turned upside down. I mean, I really went down,
Oh my
and
God.
I'm trying to get up, and then I look over, and there's, like, 2 guys in a car watching me. And I'm, like, sitting there I just sat there for, like, a couple of minutes, and I wondered if I was, like, my little hot Brooklyn hitter 21-year-old self, would they be fawning over each other to pick me up? And you know what? What I did was I got up, I dusted myself off, I gave them the finger, and I got in my car, and I drove away.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But, I don't feel invisible. You know what I think? I think we become invisible to the people that don't matter, and we become more visible to the people that
Love
do.
that.
That's what
I
I think.
love that. I think you're absolutely right. And people, you shed people too,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you know?
And I think as you're shedding and as you're doing that, process of eliminating what you no longer need, I think the people that are irrelevant just kind of fall away. They don't see you because they know they're not getting in. So
Mm,
why bother? It becomes almost like this repelling shield around you.
yeah. Yeah.
And, but there is an openness, to allow in the people that you do need around you and that you want around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
And there's more
quality
depth.
over quantity.
Absolutely. Like the depth is what's important. I feel like I just want to have real conversations with people. I don't want to play cocktail conversation.
No,
Just so what I don't want to do it.
no, no, and you don't have to.
No,
And
I
and
don't.
and this is one of the reasons that I started this because I was seeing what was, available for celebrations of women over 50, and
Hmm.
it was superficial. And I know so many amazing women that more people just need to know about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be about the hustle or, the check marks of all the things that you're doing or the, awards that most people just pay for themselves,
Right.
nominate themselves.
Right. And they get all their friends
I mean, the other thing I
everybody.
learned too,
Hey, can you?
I mean,
Yeah.
like the Forbes 50 over 50,
Yeah.
if you're a founder or like, have your own business, you have to have $10 million in income
And
to
that's
even apply.
and so that's what I'm saying is like, why is that the value that's
No,
being placed on you?
no,
What
that's
you have no value even though you impact lives, but if you don't
yeah,
have $10 million, you don't belong in that category. I just
and that's what's made me start this because you know what? I wanna hear your story.
what's that?
I wanna hear your story. I don't care how much money you have.
Oh,
You got a roof over your head, you got food on your table, God bless you. But tell me your story. Tell me how you
right.
got here. Tell me what your challenges were. Tell me what makes you happy. That's what I wanna hear, and I think that that's what people need to hear. I mean, like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she started her Wiser Than Me podcast about a month after I started this, and I
Yeah.
like to believe there's lots of alignment there. But,
Yeah.
um she just won the Webby Award for the
Yeah, I
best
saw that.
podcast, and, what she said at the end of her speech was, "Fucking listen to old people."
Well, yeah. I mean, our culture, especially in America, we put old people away, we shut them away, and we stop talking to them. You know, we
Yes.
tolerate them, we roll our eyes at them all the time.
Yep.
And you don't see that in Europe. They're
No.
revered for their wisdom. I mean,
Yes.
and Central America, all over the world.
Yeah.
But we just don't, I don't, we have such a youth culture in this
I think
country.
I'm way more interesting now than I was when I was that hot
Oh,
little
God,
21-year
yeah.
old.
Oh, God, yeah. I was a hot mess when I was in my 20s. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like I wouldn't necessarily take advice from me back in
I
my
had
20s.
I had 6 different lives going on, I had there was this life and this life and this life and this life, and never would they intertwine. So how could
Mm,
I ever be happy? I mean, that was a full-time job in itself.
right. Because you
It's like,
weren't integrated. Yeah.
no, no, because like, the family couldn't meet the work friends, couldn't meet the Long Island friends, couldn't meet the city friends.
Yeah.
And, I don't wanna live like that, that's exhausting. So
No. And I also don't like the conversation of like, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do?
yeah,
Again, in your, people don't ask you what you do. They want to know who you are. Where are you
yes,
from? What makes you tick? And that's the real connection to me. Um, I don't really care what you do until it comes up naturally.
yeah. Or unless the thing that you do is the thing that you love, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. But it's not
It's
like I'm
gonna
going to say,
come out anyway because it's what you love.
yeah, but I don't want to be identified
Yeah,
by my
no,
job,
I hear you. Yeah.
you know. But I felt for years that I had to be, which is why I just kept getting one degree after another. And then I had to go get
Mhm,
my doctorate. So that was only 5 years ago. And then
mhm,
I stopped practicing. But
mhm.
hey, I'm a doctor. What does that mean?
And you're a damn good one because you have helped me so many times over the years, and you're gonna help me now.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. It's really well, thank
It's
you.
a
I
sleep thing.
yeah, well we're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that.
Yeah, and what it does, like what I see when I think of you is all of those things, it doesn't you don't need a degree. Your every bit of you is a healer. I mean, even like going into your home, like just walking in the door, I feel healed.
Oh.
And like, feeding people and pulling out the needles and and like, where do you wanna sleep and where do you wanna sit? And I mean, it's just such a lovely experience. It's like going on
Oh.
vacation. And, and that's who you are, you wanna create this experience. You want people to be nurtured. And I'm so happy that you found a way to feed that part of yourself without depleting the other part.
That's important. That's key. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I mean, I really do love taking care of people when it's people I love and people who appreciate it. It's hard when you feel like you get your value through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of it coming naturally.
Well, you know what? Um, Now what you're doing is you're focusing on expressing your value through it,
That's a nice way to put it.
not earning your value through it.
I like that.
Okay, we are at 30 minutes.
That's crazy.
This has been just a delight. I like to end these asking the guests to share a wisdom bomb, like something that you just want people to leave people with, or something actionable that they can do in their lives or their businesses, that just give them a little jolt of, wow, that works.
Okay. Two things. One
Okay.
is from my coaching world. Um, there was something I learned there that was one of the most pivotal learning experiences I had, and that is when someone offends you or something is happening in your life and you're confused about it, you just remind yourself that what they say is about them and what you hear is about you. And
Mhm,
that's something I think about all the time because we put our own spin on everything. And then the other thing is that Gandhi quote. I
mhm,
think in a small way, you can shake the world and don't
mhm.
ever forget it. Just because you're not on a big platform or a big stage or making $10 million, you are shaking the world and impacting people's lives. And that is, you don't need to explain why you're here.
Mhm. No.
You're not, you just are entitled to live that kind of life, the kind of life that you want.
Yeah.
So that's my
Thank
two
you.
cents.
That's beautiful. And please, connect with Teri. The best place now is, I guess, on Instagram. She'll have a new website soon.
Yeah. But my
Um,
my old website is still up,
yeah,
so
but the old website doesn't represent
oh,
who
no,
she really is.
no.
So don't even go there. Just go to Instagram. You can see
Go
whatever
there.
you you can
If you wanna see who I was in my previous life.
go look at her art, look at her garden, look at
Yeah,
pictures of her traveling and enjoying a beautiful life that she's created with her amazing husband. And um
and
and
amazing
she
friends.
and when she has her new website that represents what she's doing now and into the future, you'll be able to get it from her Instagram. So, just go connect with her there and connect with her here and share her. And maybe you want a painting of your or a drawing of your cat or your dog or your cat.
We're your pygmy.
She's your woman. But anyway, thank you,
Oh,
thank you, thank you for being here with me
thank you for
today.
being here and for doing what you're doing, which is an amazing to showcase women who are doing
Who are not
amazing things
making
in the
$10
world.
million a year.
So key. It's so important. So
Yeah,
thank you.
this is
Thanks,
my
Donna.
most favorite thing.
Well, it shows.
Okay, have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody, and we will be back every Wednesday till at least February 2025.
All
Thank you.
right, my friend. Thank you.